Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome back to our Java programming tutorial series. Now, in last episode, I realized that I said I was going to teach you how to make controls today, but unfortunately, I come back and I look at our beautifully written code here, and there's no way of drawing to our window. Our window will remain blank even if we did make controls. So the first thing that we need to do today is make it so we can draw at least a single line to our screen. Now that sounds really easy because for the most part it is, but there's a few things we've got to understand is what is the Java graphics library. Now the Java graphics library is essentially, well, it handles graphics. You can draw lines, you can draw images you made in previous image editing software. Doesn't matter what it is, you can draw it to this frame using our graphics library. So for the first step, we need to extend a canvas. Now the reason we need to extend canvas is because without the canvas we can't actually draw anything. So what we're going to do is right here, before we make it visible, since we've extended canvas, it'll ask us to add a serial number. We'll just add the default serial ID, which is 1L. And once we've extended our canvas and everything is set up, when we launch, it looks exactly like it did before. It's our blank box. Now we do not want the blank box for now. We'll worry about making custom frame borders later. So for now we got our basic window here. And what we need to do is add the canvas to the window. So it's as simple as typing window.add and then add this, because we're referencing what it's already in. We're under play free, so we're referencing it as itself. And we'll set it to level 0. That way, on level 0, it has the base control. When you click on it, it's going to activate the canvas instead of activating the JFrame. So once we launch it, it'll look the exact same, but there's actually a canvas there. There is something that can be drawn there. And to prove this, we'll say public void paint graphics G. Now we're going to need to import our graphics library. So just add that to the imports. And now we have something here. So if we go g.setColor and then say color.black, import the color library. Now that we have black, we'll just fill the frame. So fill rect, so rectangle 0, 0, app width, and app height. What this should do is color our entire box black. Boom, like that. Now I'm not sure if it's double buffered or not, so we're gonna find out just by quickly going set color, color.white, and then we'll draw a circle. Draw arc 0, 0, 100, 100. We'll start at angle 0 and we'll go all the way around to 360 degrees. We save this. It didn't update. Notice, it did not update. We are in debug mode, but it didn't update, and the reason is because we have nothing telling it to redraw. It draws it once and that's it. So what we need to do is we need to create all the elements required to make a double buffer nice and smooth frame. Now, what double buffering is let's say we draw a picture and we constantly draw it over and over. Well, if it's not double buffered, it's going to try to constantly redraw it live on the front page. Now, we don't want this because it'll cause flickering and, image artifacts, and it just will not look good. So what a double buffer is we'll open Paint to give a basic idea of this. Good old Microsoft Paint. So let's say this is our application, and this is what we want it to draw, right? We'll say it's drawing a circle. Now, if we don't have a double buffer, over here, this circle could be drawn here, and if we were animating it, half of the circle would be cut off and moved, it would be moved over. It wouldn't have all of it being drawn at the same time properly. So what a double buffer is in the background, it would have an image file, and it would draw it. Once the image file is drawn, then say this is our image file. We'll say this is our image file. This, once it's completed, it will draw it to the screen once it's done. So it won't create this tearing. It'll look perfectly on the frame without having it rip apart or flicker or just not which does not look good. Anything without a double buffer is just not done correctly. So the first things that we're going to need is we're going to need a private image called back buffer, and we're going to need a private graphics, and we'll just call it BG for background graphics. We need to import the image library, so we'll just do that really quick. And once we have that, it won't know what to do with it because it's never used it. And that's because we need to create a new function called update. And inside this update function, the first thing we want to do is say if back buffer equals null, which means it doesn't exist yet, then we're going to create one. Back buffer equals create image app width app height. Once that's done, we need to set the background graphics. So bg equals back buffer dot get graphics. So now we have our graphics stage. If we run it like this, it's still going to have artifacts. Reason is because under update, this is how we check if everything's finished being drawn. Under update at the bottom, we say g.draw image back buffer. We'll set it at location 0, 0, so it starts at the top right corner of the application, and we'll set null, so it'll just draw perfectly into it. We can set null or this. Usually this adds a special feature. I'm not sure entirely what it is, but it just causes it to be smoother. Anything in here we're not going to use G to draw it because that will cause artifacts. So anything here we'll say paint because we need to draw that black screen and that circle with our back graphics. So if we set it like this and we pass through our back graphics to paint, it will draw this, and then once it's done, because it's drawing to the back buffer, once it's completed, it'll finish by drawing it to the screen. So now we have a double buffered frame without any artifacts. As you can see, our circle's there. If we change this to 100, it'll move it by 100. Apparently my numlock isn't on, so we save it to 100, and it doesn't do anything yet, and that's because we don't have our repaint. Now what we need to do is we need to create a thread that'll constantly say, hey, repaint this. So we'll say new thread, and in here we'll go at override public void main, or no, run, sorry, public void run, and in here, right at the bottom there's an underline because we created a new thread but it doesn't know what to do with it. So we'll say dot start. As soon as it's there, start it right away, and we'll set a while true so it's constantly looping. Every single tenth of a second, whenever this runs, it's going to constantly be looping. So we'll tell it to repaint. Now, as you can imagine, doing it just like this, that's going to be extremely hardware intensive. If we look at our CPU usage right here, it's insane. We are using so much power just to repaint this, and we want to limit that because it's doing a couple thousand FPS a second, and that's insane. A computer screen only goes 60 FPS. The human high, I'm pretty sure it's like 100 FPS. So we'll tell this thread to sleep for 1/16 of a second. And the reason for this, if we pull up a calculator, according to Java, 1 second is 1,000 milliseconds. So if we divide this by 60, because we want 60 FPS in a second, it'll tell us to say, wait, 16.6. So we should really be saying 17. Now, it's going to ask about a try and catch, and we haven't learned what try and catches are. What they are is it's going to try to sleep, and if it doesn't manage to sleep, if something for some reason doesn't let this thread sleep, then it'll print an error to our console. So what we'll do is we'll save it like this, and if we push start, we have a nice double buffer, and if we check our CPU usage on this program, it's not 48, it's 4. So we've cut this down by over 100%. So now that it's being constantly redrawn, if we change this coordinate, because we're using debug, we'll see it done live. So if we change it again, say 50 and 50, it'll move it over to 50x and 50y right there, and it's drawing perfectly. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we know how to draw stuff to our screen. For the next episode, I will start on the base of abstract classes, and that's how we're going to be learning how to make controls that are usable over and over again.